On we go to tool number 5, which is the big D word for catechists, and that is discipline, everyone's favorite topic. So here's the statement I invite you to respond to. I set the tone and maintained a strong but fair sense of discipline that resulted in a higher level of cooperation and mutual respect. But as we wait for those results, let me tell you about a situation that I faced just a few weeks ago that really was a first for me, and I still laugh when I think about it. I was working with my 8th graders on the 10 Commandments, and in particular, this evening we were spending some time on the 6th commandment, which is, you shall not commit adultery. Well, lo and behold, the boys in the class were acting very immature about the topic of adultery, and they started giggling nonstop. They just went into a fit. And despite my efforts, this kind of continued on for about 10 minutes until one of the boys actually raised his hand and asked, can I please take a time out in the hallway? He couldn't stop giggling, but he felt so bad about his behavior that he, in essence, disciplined himself. So, Nick, that was the first one for me. I've never had that happen before, but strange things do happen when we teach. So, Nick, tell us about how people are feeling about this discipline.
All right, Joe, thank you very much. And again, we have a pretty good mix here. We have B is the runaway first answer, so steady as she goes, followed closely by A and C. So again, very good mix, Joe.
I'm particularly impressed with the number of people who feel strong about discipline. This often comes up as an area that catechists feel weak in, but here in A and B, we've got over half of our catechists feeling like they've done a good job. So good job out there, folks. Glad to hear that you're feeling pretty good about the discipline. And if not, let's take a look at a few ways that we perhaps can improve our efforts with discipline. And before we do anything else, I'll share with you my answer, and I give myself a B, steady as she goes, Steve, in this area. I think I do a pretty good job of keeping order, but sometimes I just tend to feel that I'm a little too lenient. And in fact, when my own students evaluated me this year, a couple of them actually said that, and so they actually wished that I perhaps had a little more strong iron fist. But let's take a look at some of the ways that we can improve in keeping discipline in class. The first thing is try not to interrupt yourself. We can correct bad behavior through eye contact or walking over to the area where it's occurring or tapping your fingers on the desk of the particular culprit. But by all means, don't interrupt yourself. Try to keep going. Secondly, avoid confrontations in front of the students. You can tell the troublemaker that you'll meet with him or her later in the class or after class, or you can have the aide watch for a minute while you take them out in the hallway to chat for a little while. Next, you might want to place some high expectations on your students and set some time limits. If you keep your students busy, keep them active, and design your lessons in such a way that they really don't have time to start messing around. I encourage you to preempt, disarm, divide, and conquer, all of the ways that we can try to make sure that the second that our students are entering the classroom, we're giving them work to do and preempting and preventing them from causing any kind of trouble. And then finally, use what I call evangelizing discipline, which means that don't just tell kids, be quiet or shut up, but try to explain to them why this is so important, why we need to pay better attention so that we can grow closer to our Lord at this time. Quickly, we move on to tool number 6, which is prayer. And here is our poll question I invite you to respond to. I regularly included prayer experiences that helped participants to reflect on their relationship with the Lord and with the church. So please go ahead and make your selection now and submit that. And while we wait for the results, I just want to share with you that one of the things that I did this year for the first time was I started a new ritual for our opening prayer. And as all the students would stand up, I would call out, "This is the day the Lord has made," to which they responded, "Let us rejoice and be glad." And what I was so thrilled about is the students did this all year long and did it with great enthusiasm. Last night at our closing Mass, the psalm response was, guess what? This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad. All the kids kind of looked over at me and smiled as if to say, hey, where did you get that from? So that was kind of neat. Well, Nick, tell us what people are feeling about prayer in their classrooms this year.
All right, Joe, the Stephen Stellas win again with 30%, and then A and C with 20%. So the large part of our group here is feeling pretty good about poll question number 6.
I'm not surprised. I think that a lot of us place a great deal of importance on prayer in our lessons. Myself, I'm going to go ahead and give myself an A, like a pro Larry. I think all of you know, if you've been following me on my blog in any way, shape, or form, that I really, really believe firmly in the importance of prayer in our classrooms. So let's just share a few of the things that we can do in our settings. One I already talked about is something that I call ritual language, encouraging our students to respond to such things as, this is the day the Lord has made, let us rejoice and be glad, or something like, our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth. Other items like that are ritual language. Ritual gestures are important, making the sign of the cross or the threefold sign of the cross that we trace on our forehead, lips, and heart, something that I do at the start of every class with my students. Ritual movement, things like processions in our rooms or a Bible enthronement. I strongly encourage silence as a very important part of our prayerful elements, as well as music and song. Music means a lot to kids, and it's a big part of our prayer life. And then finally, patience. A lot of times we start to pray with kids, and we're frustrated when they can't do it right the first time. Let's be patient and keep on teaching them how to pray. Finally, we move on now to our last tool, which is technique. And here I ask you to respond to this statement. I communicated a sense of teaching with authority and enthusiasm by paying attention to my technique, movement, eye contact, voice, facial expression, and so on. So, Nick, how are things shaping up there with this poll result?
All right, Joe, we have a very technical group with us tonight. We have the A and B group with 39 and 30% of the votes, so far and away the biggest group of responses. So a group that has a very polished technique.
You know, I think our technique is very important. I give myself a B in this area. I think I try to vary my technique, but one thing that sometimes happens is folks like me have been around the block a few times. We can get a little lazy, and that's why I didn't give myself an A. But what I recommend to all of us is let's make sure that in our technique we let our voice, the volume of our voice show authority. Let's let our voice's tone show some feeling. Let our voice, our face show enthusiasm and joy. Let our eyes show that we care. And let our body language show our passion for our ministry. And let our movement show some ownership of what we're about. And so our technique is something that we can really focus on to try to express to the people we're teaching that we're so excited about the message of the gospel. Well, I promised you that I would have a PDF of this self-evaluation available, and you can go visit my blog as soon as we're done here. Go to www.catechistjourney.com, and you'll be able to download the PDF that you see right there, and I encourage you to use this with your fellow catechists or with your DRE to further talk about this experience that you've been sharing this evening. And I look forward to continuing this discussion with you on my blog, Catechist Journey, where you'll find those links to the PDFs that we were just talking about. Thank you, and have a very restful time off from your teaching.